Jennifer is 29 years old, standing in her kitchen at 11:43 p.m. on a Tuesday, staring at her banking app. $18,000 sitting in a high-yield savings account, 6 months of expenses. She screenshot it 2 weeks ago and sent it to her group chat with a little flexing emoji because, honestly, she was proud. She should be. She did everything the financial gurus on the internet told her to do. She automated her savings. She tracked her spending in a color-coded spreadsheet. She skipped the avocado toast. She earned that $18,000. 4 months later, that money is gone. Not because she blew it on vacations, not because she made reckless decisions, because she lost her job, her car transmission died the same month, and the only company that offered her a position was in a different city. Job loss plus a $2,800 repair, plus $6,000 in moving costs. Her 6 months of safety evaporated in 4 months. She is starting her new gig with $1,800 left and a credit card balance she didn't have before the emergency started. $18,000 gone, and she did everything right. Look, I am exhausted. I am so tired of watching people like Jennifer get absolutely blindsided by completely predictable financial disasters because every personal finance blog, every budgeting app notification, every smiling advisor on a podcast is still parroting the same dusty advice from 2010. Save 3 to 6 months of expenses. Cool, fantastic. That advice was designed for a world where a car repair cost $800, where you could find a new job in your field within 90 days, and where a trip to the emergency room didn't come with a $4,700 surprise bill 3 weeks later. That world is dead. The advice survived. And that mismatch is destroying people. Your emergency fund isn't protecting you. It is a participation trophy for financial responsibility. It looks nice on your shelf. It makes you feel like you're winning. But the second real life kicks in the door, that trophy shatters into 1,000 pieces, and you're standing there wondering what happened. Here is what happened. The personal finance industry sold you a number. 3 to 6 months, a clean, simple, easy to remember target. And the problem with clean, simple targets is they were built for clean, simple emergencies. One thing goes wrong, you dip into savings, you recover. Neat, tidy, almost never how it actually works. In 2026, emergencies don't come one at a time. They come in packs like wolves. You lose your job and then your car breaks down because, of course it does. You have a medical emergency and then you can't work for 2 months. And then your insurance fights you on the claim for 6 more weeks. One crisis triggers another crisis, which triggers another crisis. And your little 6-month cushion is getting shredded from 3 directions at once. And the financial planning industry, the budgeting apps, the advisors, they still telling you $18,000 is enough. They still running the same calculator from 2012. They haven't updated a single assumption. Not the cost of car repairs, not the length of a modern job search, not the fact that inflation has been quietly eating your emergency fund alive. While it sits in that savings account, earning 4%, against costs rising at 6%, that is not a safety net. That is a napkin. And you're about to need a parachute. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but I have 6 months saved. And that is more than most people. And honestly, you're right. You are ahead of most people. Most Americans can cover a $1,000 surprise expense without a credit card. So yeah, comparatively, you're doing great. But better than broke is not the same thing as actually protected. Being the tallest person in a room with a 7-foot ceiling doesn't mean you won't hit your head. The rules changed, the cost of everything that can go wrong has exploded. The time it takes to recover from a job loss has doubled. And the old playbook that every guru is still handing out, like Halloween candy, is getting people wrecked. I'm about to walk you through exactly why, dollar by dollar, month by month. I'm going to show you what actually happens when real emergencies hit real people who followed all the traditional advice. And by the end of this, you're either going to be furious at the outdated system that set you up to fail, or you're going to be grateful you found out before it was too late, probably both. Now let's talk about the lies. The beautiful, comforting, financially devastating lies that everyone keeps repeating because they heard them from some guy in a polo shirt on a podcast in 2019. Lie number 1, 3 to 6 months is the golden rule. No, it is not a golden rule, it is a golden coffin. You know who came up with that number? Financial advisors in the early 2000s, when the average rent was $602 a month, and a hospital visit didn't require you to sell a kidney to pay for the other kidney they just operated on. That number was calculated for a world where gas was $1.50, and your biggest financial emergency was your washing machine dying. That world is gone, it is buried, and you're still bringing flowers to its grave every month by depositing into a savings account that wouldn't cover 2 months of actual chaos. Lie number 2. Your emergency fund only needs to cover your monthly expenses. This one makes me want to throw my laptop. Your monthly expenses are the floor. They're the bare minimum. They don't include the $2,800 car repair to an interview in Denver that leads to nothing. They don't include the $800 flight. They don't include the $6,000 security deposit and moving truck. When you finally land something 3 states away, your budget spreadsheet is a fantasy document. It describes your life when everything is working perfectly. Emergencies are what happen when nothing is working perfectly. And somehow, the entire financial planning industry built their flagship advice around the assumption that emergencies would politely stay within your monthly budget categories. That is like building a hurricane shelter out of paper towels because they work great on a sunny day. Lie number 3. A high-yield savings account protects your money. Protects it from what? Thieves, sure, inflation. Absolutely not. Your high-yield savings account paying 4%, while inflation runs at 5 to 6%. On groceries, rent, and car repairs is not protection. That is a slow bleed. You're watching your purchasing power drain out like a bathtub with the plug pulled, and the bank is sending you cheerful emails about your $14.73 in monthly interest, like they just did you a massive favor. Your $18,000 emergency fund from 2 years ago buys you maybe $16,500 worth of actual emergencies today. Nobody tells you that. The bank certainly doesn't. They're too busy congratulating you for being a valued saver. Lie number 4. You can always cut expenses during an emergency. Oh, really? Tell that to Jennifer when her car transmission blew. Tell that to Sarah when her complicated pregnancy required $8,000 in medical bills that insurance shrugged at. You can't negotiate with a mechanic using positive vibes. You can't tell your landlord you're cutting back this month on rent. The expenses that matter during emergencies are the ones you literally cannot cut. That is what makes them emergencies. The latte budget advice crowd loves to pretend that financial discipline is a substitute for adequate savings. It is not. Discipline doesn't pay your deductible. Discipline doesn't cover a security deposit in a new city. And here is the lie that ties them all together. The big one, the one that keeps this whole broken system running. If you follow the traditional advice, you'll be financially prepared. You won't. You'll be financially comfortable, right up until the moment you're not. And the gap between comfortable and prepared is about $30,000 for most people. That is the gap Jennifer fell into. That is the gap Sarah fell into. That is the gap Marcus fell into. They all did exactly what the experts said. They all ended up on credit cards anyway. I know what you're thinking. Penny, this sounds like you're just trying to scare people into hoarding cash. I'm not. I'm trying to scare you into doing math, real math, not the sanitized, everything goes perfectly math that financial influencers use. When they're selling you on index funds and telling you cash is trash. Cash is not trash when your employer eliminates your entire department on a random Tuesday in March. Cash is not trash when you're 7 months pregnant and a doctor says you can't work for the next 10 weeks. Cash is the only thing standing between you and a credit card balance. That follows you around for years, like a financial stalker. The traditional playbook didn't fail because people followed it wrong. It failed because the world changed, and the playbook didn't. But it gets worse because the real mechanics of how emergencies actually destroy people financially go way deeper than just having the wrong number in a savings account. So here is the actual framework, the real mechanics, the stuff that actually works. When life decides to body slam you into the concrete, I call this the layered defense system, because your emergency fund shouldn't be one pile of money, sitting in one account doing one thing. That is like showing up to a house fire with a single cup of water. Technically, you brought something. Practically, you're useless. Layer 1. The chaos buffer. This is $1,000 to $2,000 in your checking account at all times. Not your savings. Your checking account. The one connected to your debit card. This money exists for one reason. The water heater explodes at 11 p.m. on a Saturday, and the plumber standing in your flooded basement doesn't take iOS. The mechanic tells you it is $487 for the alternator, and your car isn't leaving the shop without it. This layer prevents small emergencies from becoming credit card debt. Most Americans can cover a $400 surprise expense without borrowing. $400. That is the price of existence catching you off guard on a random Wednesday. Layer 2. The bridge fund. This is 3 months of expenses in a high-yield savings account, earning 4 to 5%. For someone spending $4,000 a month, that is $12,000. This is your breathing room. You get laid off. This buys you 90 days to think clearly. Instead of panic applying to every job posting on LinkedIn at 2 a.m. while eating cereal over the sink. This layer isn't the solution, it is the tourniquet. It stops the bleeding while you figure out your next move. Layer 3, the fortress. This is where the real protection lives. Another 6 to 9 months of expenses, but not in a regular savings account. This goes into treasury bills, I-bonds, a money market fund, something earning closer to 4.5 to 5.2% that you can access within 3 to 5 business days, but that you won't touch because it is slightly inconvenient to reach. That inconvenience is a feature, not a bug. For Jennifer at $4,000 a month, this layer is $24,000 to $36,000. Combined with her bridge fund, she is sitting on 9 to 12 months of real coverage. And here is the key. The fortress money is partially inflation protected. I-bonds adjust with CPI. Treasury bills roll over at current rates. Your purchasing power isn't melting like ice cream on a Houston sidewalk in July. Now, the math that makes this actually achievable, instead of just another impossible savings target some YouTuber yelled at you about. If you are making $72,000, like Jennifer, your take-home is roughly $4,500 a month. You are spending $4,000. That leaves $500. At $500 a month, building a full 12-month emergency fund takes forever. I know, so you don't do it all at once. First 4 months, build the chaos buffer to $2,000. That is $500 a month. Done. Next 24 months, build the bridge fund to $12,000. Still $500 a month. Boring, painful, necessary. After that, redirect into the fortress. Every raise you get, every tax refund, every side hustle dollar, all of it goes here until you hit your target. Now, you might be thinking, Penny, that is over 2 years just to get the first 2 layers built. I could be investing that money, and look, I get it. But let me ask you something. What is the return on investment of not going $12,000 into credit card debt at 27% APU when your life falls apart? Because that is what happened to Sarah. She saved $30,000 the traditional way and still ended up owing Visa 12 grand at interest rates that would make a loan shark blush. The opportunity cost argument only works if you never have an emergency, and nobody watching this has that kind of luck. Here is the part that the Dave Ramseys and the Suze Ormans of the world won't tell you. Your emergency fund target needs to be recalculated every single year, not set once and forgotten like a New Year's resolution. About going to the gym. Your expenses in January are not your expenses in December. Inflation alone bumps your costs 5 to 6% annually on groceries, insurance premiums, and rent. That $4,000 monthly budget Jennifer had in 2024 is $4,240 by 2026. Her emergency fund target should have grown by $2,880 just to stay even. It didn't because nobody told her to update it. Write down your actual monthly spending, not what your budget app says, what your bank statement says. Those are two very different numbers for most people. Multiply that real number by 12. That is your minimum target. Then add your risk multipliers from the framework we already covered. That final number is going to be uncomfortable. Good comfort is what got everyone into this mess. And here is what really keeps me up at night about all of this. You did the homework, you read the articles, you watched the videos, you opened the high-yield savings account, you set up the automatic transfers, you hit that magic number, that sacred little $18,000 or $24,000 sitting in your account, and you felt it, that warmth in your chest, that exhale, that moment where you thought, I'm not like everyone else, I'm prepared. You weren't prepared. You were cosplaying as someone who is prepared. And I'm not saying that to be cruel. I'm saying it because the person who sold you that number, the blogger who wrote how to build your emergency fund in 12 easy steps, back in 2014 while sipping oat milk in a studio apartment, that cost $1,100 a month. That person doesn't live in your world. They don't know that your kid's air visit last February came with a $4,200 bill after insurance. They don't know that your landlord just raised your rent by $300 because market conditions. They don't know that the job listing you applied to last week had 847 other applicants. 847. But you followed their advice anyway, because it felt responsible, because it felt like enough. And that is the cruelest part of this whole thing. The system didn't punish you for being reckless. It punished you for being obedient. Jennifer didn't blow her money on bottle service and designer bags. Sarah didn't gamble it away. Marcus didn't make a single irresponsible decision. They all did exactly what the financial wellness industry told them to do, and they all ended up on a credit card company's balance sheet anyway. Think about that for a second. The reward for following the rules was debt. You are not financially prepared just because a number in your savings account matches a formula someone invented during the Obama administration. You are financially prepared when the worst day of your life doesn't also become the first day of a debt spiral. And right now, for most of you watching this, those two things are the same day. You just don't know it yet. I know what some of you are thinking. Penny, this is depressing. What am I supposed to do? Just hoard cash under my mattress forever and never invest? No. That is not what I'm saying, and you know it. What I'm saying is stop lying to yourself. Stop looking at that $15,000 in your savings app and calling it a fortress when it is a speed bump. A single speed bump between you and financial chaos. Because here is what the traditional advice really was. It was a participation trophy. It was the financial equivalent of a good job sticker on a kindergarten worksheet. It made you feel like you accomplished something, so you'd stop worrying and go back to spending. It wasn't designed to protect you, it was designed to pacify you. The banks don't care if your emergency fund actually works. They care that you stop asking questions. They care that you keep your $18,000 parked in their account, earning them overnight lending revenue while you sleep soundly thinking you're safe. You're not safe. You're quiet. There is a difference. Jennifer is 32 now. She has $55,000 in her emergency fund. Her coworkers laugh at her. Her friends say she is paranoid. Her financial advisor, the same type of person who told her $18,000 was enough the first time, says she is being overly conservative. She doesn't care because she remembers month 4. She remembers putting a security deposit on a credit card in a city where she didn't know anyone, with $1,800 to her name and a job that hadn't started yet. She remembers the 3 a.m. math, the kind you do on your phone calculator in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out if you can afford to exist for 2 more weeks. That math changes you. It rewires something in your brain that never fully goes back. So here is the truth. Nobody in the personal finance space wants to say out loud, because it doesn't fit in a cute Instagram carousel. Your emergency fund is not a savings goal. It is a survival prediction. And if your prediction is based on a world that doesn't exist anymore, you're not planning, you're praying. And prayer is beautiful, but it is a terrible financial strategy. If this changed how you think about your money, hit that like button and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.